I've never been into rituals, seances, or anything involving the supernatural. That was until my friends Patrick and Edward introduced me to the Lullaby Man ritual. If you're like most people, then you probably haven't heard of it. It was one of those online rituals that summon spirits or demons to haunt you, or something like that. Apparently, Patrick and Edward had discovered the ritual on our own town's message boards. These message boards were dedicated to local news, crime watches, etc. But my friends and I would sometimes make joke posts to get a reaction out of the moderators. Harmless stuff, really. So you can imagine when Patrick and Edward stumbled across this strange post, they thought it best to fill me in. This happened just 3 days ago. I'll account exactly how it all happened, and how it went so wrong. It had been a slow day. Patrick and Edward were busy with basketball practice all afternoon, seeing as they were much more athletic than I was, and I didn't really care for sports. I had spent my day mostly lounging around with nothing to do. So when I got a text from Patrick asking me to come over to his house because he and Edward had something to show me, I was pretty excited. I should also mention that both Patrick and Edward lived within walking distance of my house, so getting to Patrick's house was not a long trek. When I arrived at the house, I could hear him and Edward talking loudly upstairs in his bedroom, so I took that as a hint to go up and see what was going on. When I entered the room, I saw the two of them huddled around his desk where he kept his laptop. They turned around and greeted me before inviting me over to the desk. Okay, so before practice today, I was browsing the message boards and found something pretty cool. You're gonna want to see this, Patrick said with a grin. He scrolled down the page a bit and clicked on a link. The title of the post read, "The Lullaby Man Ritual." I must have had a strange look on my face, because Patrick looked at me and asked me what I was thinking. I don't know, man. It seems kind of stupid to me. I mean, the Lullaby Man? Is that supposed to be scary? I said sarcastically. You haven't even read it, dude. Trust me, it doesn't disappoint. He and Edward smirked at each other. I silently agreed and sat down at his desk and began reading the post. This is what was written. The Lullaby Man Ritual. The Lullaby Man was a real man, said to have lived in this town. Legend has it that he would often sing children to sleep, thus how he got his name, the Lullaby Man. He loved playing with and caring for the children of the town, but he would lash out at the naughty ones. The townsfolk, having had observed this behavior, grew wary of him playing with the children. Fearing he would harm them, the townsfolk revolted against him and drove him out. He swore vengeance on the town and all the adults in it before killing himself shortly thereafter. It is said that by using this ritual, you summon his spirit to your place of dwelling. Do so at your own risk. You can only imagine what he'd do if he happened to see any adults or naughty children. Rules. Readers must stand in front of their bedroom door and read the following incantation aloud in order to allow the Lullaby Man to enter. It must be 11:59 p.m. and the 59th second upon the completion of the incantation. Otherwise, the ritual will not work. The bedroom you perform the ritual in must be your own. You cannot summon the Lullaby Man in someone else's room. You must be the only person in the bedroom upon finishing the incantations. The ritual will not work if there are more people in the room. Once the Lullaby Man enters your room, do not move, talk, or interrupt his song at all. He will remain with you until dawn. Once he has left, you are free to move about. The Lullaby Man will not return to your room unless the ritual is performed again. The incantation. Lullaby Man, sing me to sleep. Enter my room, I won't make a peep. For naughty children scarcely survive. My life you shall surely deprive. The breath you will take out of my lungs, a warning to all that you have come. After reading the post, I sat there trying to digest what I had just read. This post wasn't like anything else I had ever seen on the message boards before, and I know for a fact that if the moderators had seen this, they would have removed it immediately. I was slightly unnerved. I was so deep in thought, I didn't hear Edward and Patrick call out to me. I quickly shook myself out of my trance and looked over at them. They were both grinning at me. "What?" I said, confused. "We're gonna do this thing tonight, man," Edward replied enthusiastically. Patrick nodded along with him. "Don't tell me you're scared." He raised an eyebrow. "No, of course I'm not scared. Why would I be scared of some stupid internet ritual?" I tried to sound as nonchalant as possible. "How did you say you found this again?" Patrick's expression changed. He now looked a bit more serious. "I was browsing some of the first posts on the message boards. Back from a few years ago when they were just started. I stumbled upon this way back on the first page." I scrolled back up to the top of the page. The date of the post, along with the user that had posted it, were always under the post title. The date read 2 years ago. The user, anonymous. Weren't there only parents on here when the message boards were started? I was curious now. You don't suppose one of them would have posted this, do you? I mean, it's right in between all the posts about the rules of the message boards. Well, there's no point in making a fuss about it. Nothing we can do besides test it out, Edward said with a grin. Patrick and I glanced at each other. "So which one of us is going to try it tonight, then?" Patrick asked deviously. Slowly, Edward and Patrick turned towards me. I glanced at both of them. Me? I thought about it for a second and realized how strange all of this sounded. But then the realist in me shone through. There was no possible way that this post could have any truth to it. I've seen countless rituals just like this one all over the internet. What made this one so special? "Sure, I'll do it," I responded confidently. "I doubt that it'll work anyway." Edward and Patrick looked at me, and then at each other. They patted me on the back. "Ooh, the Lullaby Man is sure gonna sing you to sleep tonight, buddy," Edward said teasingly. "Sleep tight, don't let the Lullaby Man strike." He let out a chuckle. Patrick and I looked at each other and smirked. By this point, it was about 7 p.m., and I knew my parents would expect me home for dinner. "Guys, I gotta go. My parents are gonna freak out if I'm not home for dinner. I'll text you before I start the ritual tonight." I made air quotes with my fingers. "All right, man. Be careful." Patrick sounded serious again. I glanced back at him, now standing in the doorway of his bedroom, and gave him a nod. That night at dinner, I asked my parents if they had ever seen any strange posts on the message boards. They laughed and told me the jokes my friends and I posted were the only strange posts they'd seen. I quickly finished my food and went up to my room. I figured I'd just text Patrick and Edward until it was time for the ritual. We had a group chat that we frequently used. I remember that it was just Patrick and I in the chat that night. Edward didn't send a single message, which we found to be odd. Maybe the Lullaby Man got him, Patrick added jokingly. But it's not even 11:59 yet, I replied. We kept talking, and before I knew it, it was already 11 o'clock. I wanted to wait until my parents were asleep to perform the ritual for obvious reasons. Thankfully, my parents typically went to bed at 11:30. The last 50 minutes felt like an eternity, like I was waiting in purgatory for my punishment. When it was 11:57, I got up off my bed and walked out into the dark hallway. I noticed that all the lights downstairs were off, and my parents' bedroom door was shut. It was finally time to get this over with. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom, phone in hand, and the incantation on my screen. Here goes nothing, I guess. I quietly began to read the incantation. Lullaby Man, sing me to sleep. Enter my room, I won't make a peep. For naughty children scarcely survive. My life you shall surely deprive. The breath you will take out of my lungs, a warning to all that you have come. I stood there for a moment after finishing the last line, half expecting something to happen. Nothing. What a hoax, I said, annoyed. I closed my bedroom door and climbed into bed. I texted Patrick and told him that the thing was a hoax and that I was going to sleep. I turned my phone off, closed my eyes, and began drifting off to sleep. Suddenly, I heard my bedroom doorknob click. My eyes shot open. I was now wide awake. I didn't hear another sound for a few moments, but I didn't dare move. I then heard heavy footsteps slowly walking towards my bed. If one of my parents had entered the room, they would have called my name by now. This wasn't one of my parents. Slowly, the footsteps got closer and closer until they stopped right at the side of my bed. I could now hear that whoever had entered my room was wheezing. It was an awful cacophony of cracks and scratches. Just then, I felt the mattress sink on the side of my bed. This thing had sat down next to me. I was trying my hardest not to move or make the slightest sound, even though my heart was beating so loud, I swore it would hear. For a few more moments, everything was quiet, besides the loud wheezing of this thing and the incessantly loud beating of my heart. Suddenly, the thing began making some sort of awful sound, even worse than its wheezing. It was almost as if the thing was singing. You couldn't even really call what it was doing singing. I nearly jumped out of my bed. The sound was discordant and low-pitched. It sounded like the words it was attempting to say were in some foreign language. The Lullaby Man was real, and in my room. I remember what the post had said. The Lullaby Man will remain with you until dawn. Would I really have to listen to this orchestra of terror until dawn? As time went on, my body itched, My ears ached. Everything hurt. It felt like my body would explode at any moment. It took all my energy and concentration not to move a muscle. It felt like hours had passed since this thing began its singing. I could feel my consciousness slipping away as I focused. My eyelids grew increasingly heavier, and eventually, my mind shut off. Somehow, despite all the noise, I passed out, because when I came to, I could hear birds chirping. I didn't dare move, but I noticed small rays of light shining into my room. I also noticed that the singing had gotten really quiet now, almost barely audible. Suddenly, the weight on the side of my bed lifted as the thing got up. I heard its slow, heavy footsteps as it walked away from my bed and towards my bedroom door. I heard the doorknob click, and my room was once again silent. I just laid there, frozen with shock and disbelief. What had I just witnessed? Out of pure exhaustion, I once again passed out. I awoke to the sound of sirens coming from outside, and I noted with panic that they were much closer than they should have been. I heard commotion coming from downstairs, so I figured I should see what was happening. I groggily got up and stumbled to my dresser, threw on some clothes, and went downstairs. The front door was open, and my parents were nowhere to be seen. I stumbled over to the front door and peered out. There, on the porch, were my parents, clad in pajamas and robes. They turned and looked at me, their faces long and expressions grim. What happened? I barely managed to spit out. They both embraced me. It just then dawned on me why the sirens were so loud. There was an ambulance at Edward's house. I watched in horror as two paramedics brought a body bag out on a stretcher. I didn't know for sure, but something told me that the body in that bag was Edward's. Police were completely stumped as to how it happened. There were no signs of a break-in, nothing was stolen, and absolutely nothing was out of place. What perplexed the investigators the most, however, was the cause of death. They concluded he had died of asphyxiation due to the fact his windpipe was completely crushed, but there wasn't a single fingerprint or bruise on his neck. In the police's own words, it's as if a ghost strangled him to death. No fingerprints or DNA evidence whatsoever. But there's no way his windpipe could have crushed itself like that. This is truly an odd case. I don't know how, but I think someone else found that post about the Lullaby Man. On the news today, there was another kid who died of asphyxiation. No fingerprints or bruises left behind. This is a warning to all those who seek to do this sick ritual. Whatever you do, don't try to summon the Lullaby Man. For your own good, just don't. And if you happen to stumble across a strange post on your town's message boards, avoid it like the plague. Nothing good will come of it. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments below, and tell me what you thought of this narration. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for updates, and if you'd like to get early videos, shoutouts, and much more, I'd appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. It's a place where you can help support my channel while getting awesome rewards in the process, and every pledge helps out a ton, no matter the size. So if you'd like to see all the rewards I offer and consider becoming a patron, it'd mean a ton to me if you'd click the link in the description and just check it out. And don't forget to show some love to the amazingly talented authors who make these narrations possible. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.